throughout most of my day. And it's actually been a crazy help. And I'll get into that. Let's start. Okay. I'm just going to go right into this because every single time I say I want to finish things quickly, I don't end up finishing things quickly. So let's just get started. So, how's it going, everybody? My name is Haseab. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where you pretty much get to see an inside scoop of my journey. I don't know where my journey is going to head to, but this is what you see right now. Today is February something. February, let me take a quick peek, 18th. And today I want to talk to you about what I'm doing in 2021, as well as certain worries I have. And that's it. Let's do that. Okay, let's do a countdown. So I have 3 things that I'm doing. Let's start with number 3, and then we'll go number 2, and then number 1. So from the last video, I talked a lot about the systems that I had, about how I just finished school, how I just wanted to restructure everything. I was talking about my trading bot, all of that. So let's talk about this. The third thing, the number 3, is my foundational projects that I'm creating right now, which is the trading bot, my time tracking analyzer, as well as something I call an RPS. So I never mentioned these last 2, and I only mentioned the first one because this is the biggest one. Like, that's the biggest one. And I talked about a lot about it. I'm not going to even talk about it in this video. The whole point, the update on that is that I got a little done, but not too much, because I just have the front end to finish right now. And I'll talk about that soon. Pretty much I'm learning Django right now to be able to create a front end for every single one of my projects, because I already know Python right now, so I might as well do it. But anyways, that's for later. So the other 2 projects, there's something I call TiBA, Time Tracking Behavior Analyzer. The T and the I is the first word, and then B and the A is the behavior analyzer. Basically, and then the second one, which is the RPS, I call it the Reward Punishment System. And I'll talk about these 2 because I think these are pretty interesting, pretty important in terms of my focus in the last few weeks, in the first 2 months of 2021. So TiBA, which is the time tracking project, this has a massive potential. However, it's quite small right now. As you probably have heard from what I've talked about in the last few videos, if you ever were catching up, I know my videos are long, so I don't expect you to not know this. I don't expect you to know this. But I've been tracking my time for over 2 years, and I'm actually approaching 3 years now. 3 years straight. 24/7, 365, not a single minute untracked. I can literally tell you exactly what I did. It's that crazy. So I was like, yo, I have literally over 100,000 pieces of data. I definitely can get some crazy insight. And that's the plan. I haven't done that yet. What I have been working on, though, is 2 things, which is being able to measure my efficiency automatically, as well as being able to track my mindfulness/slowness. Now keep that in mind. I'm going to come back to this. But tracking my mindfulness and slowness. The efficiency part I thought was pretty interesting. You know what's actually so interesting? This all literally merges into each other. As soon as I talk about this, then I'm going to get into the RPS because it's related. And then after I talk about that, then it's also related to the first project, or so the next thing. So anyways, we'll get into that. So pretty much, I've been trying to use the data that I've been collecting for some purpose. And I remember a few years ago, when I first started time tracking, I used to calculate my efficiency manually. I would literally punch in the calculator. Oh, I did this, I did that, I did this. These are all productive tasks. Let's divide it by the total amount of tasks. That's my efficiency. Well, that's my productivity. And it literally gives a quantifiable score to your productivity, which is really cool. But because I had to do it manually, I literally became lazy and I didn't calculate it for months. For the last few months, I have not calculated at all. I think for all of 2020, I didn't calculate it. The point is, though, that the moment I'm able to calculate it automatically, not only does it allow me to just know how efficient I am, but it allows me to know how efficient I am at any moment. So if I ask the computer or whatever, how efficient am I from the time I started in the beginning of the week till now, I can know. So I can basically get feedback very, very quickly on whether I should be working harder or working less. And that couldn't have happened before, because if you had to manually do it every single time, it just would have been too tedious. So that's really, really cool. And this actually ties in to the next system, which is the reward punishment system. The reward punishment system is very, very interesting because it completely changes the paradigm as to how you look at motivation. And I'm talking more about not intrinsic motivation, but more external motivations. Whenever you do a habit, one of the core principles that are mentioned is that you should reward yourself at the end of the habit, among many other things, such as making it very clear, breaking it up into small chunks, stuff like that. But one of the important things is you should reward yourself. You should create this positive reinforcement, if we were to refer to operant learning. So pretty much what I'm trying to say, though, is the main issue with motivation, at least external motivation, is twofold. And it's on both sides of the perspective, which is when you positively reward yourself and when you negatively affect your consequences if you don't do something. And I've done both, extensively, more on the negative side too. So I think I might have talked about this. If I haven't, if I haven't, I have a much more fresh perspective of this. The problem with positively reinforcing yourself is this: you're already doing an activity without any reward already. The only activities I would think are useful for positive reinforcement are activities you literally do not want to do at all. You should never positively reinforce activities that you already like doing. Why? Because the moment you associate it with an external reward, it no longer becomes an intrinsic motivation, but it becomes an extrinsic motivation. By the way, this whole concept of motivation, intrinsic, extrinsic, it's in my mind, I actually don't necessarily agree with this topic, but just for the purposes of you guys understanding it, I'm just describing it in these terms. Intrinsic becomes extrinsic. And the moment you withdraw this, you're no longer going to want to do your activity. Whereas before, you would have done it regardless. So that got me really scared. I was like, okay, there's not many things that I can apply positive reinforcement to, because there's not many things that I do right now that I don't like. And that's pretty cool. I think that's a really, really good blessing in my life, that I can literally do things that I want. So that's the positive reinforcement side. Let's talk about negative reinforcement now. Negative reinforcement, I don't even know if that makes any sense, but basically what I'm trying to say is, I'll give you a sample scenario. If I don't get these things done by the end of the week, such as if I don't complete 10 hours of this, 10 hours of, project work, if I don't message 2 people every single day, if I don't do stuff like that, 2 new people, then I'm going to have to, there's going to be a punishment. And the problem with this, I'll give you an example of a punishment, by the way, because punishments are actually hard to enforce, at least for ourselves. But the way in which I punish myself is through money. I lose a bunch of money. I found a bunch of different ways of punishing myself recently, which is stuff and listen, these are really, really personal to me. By no means am I saying for you to do these type of things, but such as sleeping on the floor, or humiliating myself in front of my roommates, such as, screaming or doing some stupid stuff. That is an example of negative reinforcement. And you pretty much implement that by punishing yourself if you don't do the criteria that you want to follow. You actually can be very, very successful doing this. And I actually think this is an amazingly successful tool. Very, very effective in the short term at getting the result that you want, and it works. The problem is, long term, it's not good at all, because you're pretty much training yourself to be like a dog. And you don't want to be like that, because essentially you're going to be running off fear the entire time, and you literally will get burnt out. and that's not a good thing. So I was doing some thinking, and I was like, okay, so none of this works. All these classical ways which we try to motivate ourselves are bullshit. The classical way in which we normally try to motivate ourselves is like set a deadline. If we don't get the deadline, if we don't reach the deadline, then there's a punishment. And most of the time, we can't even reinforce those punishments because we're our own judge. It's like trying to make the thief the police as well. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I thought about two things. If you want to just make that better a little bit, you can make it very, very specific and outsource the tracking to an app, to an automatic tracker, whatever it is, so that you're not the one that's actually tracking. If you do that, you don't get to make the decisions of whether you won or not, or whether you passed or not. Therefore, the enforcement can come from an external source. And that's good, but there's still a problem, which is that it's still directly associations of, if you don't do this, this will happen to you, which is not a good thing. Like I told you, you become conditioned to be fearful all the time, and it's not good. Okay, so this is where the RPS comes in. I realized that the number one way in which we can just get generally motivated is by having a sense where if we just do more good work, if we just do better work, more productive work in general, then that means that the probability of you getting rewarded increases. Not guaranteed, but the probability increases. So there's not like it's a very loose association, which is good because your brain is not good with loose associations. It's very good for direct associations. How many hours do I need to do in order to get this reward? How many hours do I need to do in order to avoid this pain? And what this does is that it gives us, there's like this whole ambiguity to it, which is that the more productive work you do, the more higher chances that you're going to get rewarded. And I'll explain how this works. On the flip side, it works the same exact way with punishments, which is the more time you waste, the likelier it is you're going to get punished. And the more time you waste again, the likelier it is you're going to get punished. And I think this is really, really good because it's almost like, let's try to like reframe this example, which is, just imagine you actually have like, you're like a student and you have a master, and the master's telling you to do certain things. And the master, for example, let's assume they have like a camera in the room, or they always have a watchful eye on you. If you do one thing, right, you don't know, if you do like something bad, if you do something stupid, you don't know if the master's going to punish you right away, right? So what you do is, if you know that master like punishes very, very hard, or you're just uncertain as to what his expectations are, you're not going to cross the line as much. So therefore, you're going to be a little more on the defensive side. You're not going to be more offensive. And the good thing about that is that it's basically because of this uncertainty that forces you to act a certain way, which is really, really interesting. It's not necessarily fear, like a direct result that you're going to get punished this much, but I don't know how to explain this part properly, but the uncertainty is what allows you to feel the uncertainty of not knowing what your punishment's going to be, or how much it's going to be, or when it's going to happen, is what forces you to do well without associating it with something negative. And by the way, I'm just going to let you know, this is all theory so far because I have not implemented it, but it just makes a lot of sense. I don't know why I really, really F with it so hard, but like, it just makes a lot of sense. Okay, anyways, let's continue. So how do I actually implement that? The way in which I do it is I outsource it to a computer. I have the computer calculate a bunch of random values. So I give a list of rewards, from the lowest reward to the highest reward. I give it a list of efficiencies. Remember I talked about efficiencies in my TiBA project, my time tracking project? A list of efficiencies, a range that I should be getting, and it'll just randomly choose one. And if I'm efficient that week, and that's the important thing as well, it's not even limited to a week span. And so watch this. The reward is randomized. The efficiency rating is randomized, like what efficiency I should be getting in that period. And then the period itself is also randomized. So it can span from anything between like 3 days to all the way to 14 days. So I don't know how long I have to be efficient for. So let's assume I know I have to grind because I know a higher rating will get me a higher result. That means that I have to work, but then I don't know how long I should be working for. A minimum of 3 days, maximum of 14. That's a long stretch. So that's the good thing about it. The fact that I actually will have a very, very uncertain idea of like how I should be working. So basically what the good thing about this is that it just gets you in the mindset where you stop focusing on directly associating things. And you're just more like, if I just put in more good work, or if I waste less time overall, then there's a likelier chance that I'm going to get rewarded. That's it. That's simple. Okay, that's how the RPS works, and I've created all the code for it. I've literally, what's it called? It's literally ready to go. The problem is I'm going through like a pilot phase like this week right now. I'm going through a pilot where I'm actually seeing if it actually works, just a testing phase. And then by next week, I'm going to run it. And I think it's really going to be useful. So far, my efficiency is like really, really crazy. Anyways, that's the third thing, by the way. In the top three, it's number 3 of what I'm focused on. These projects, all those projects, number 3. Number 2 is something I call brand building. I think I might have mentioned this before. In the last few months that you haven't seen me, in 2021, I've been obsessed with understanding how much leverage comes from meeting new people and comes from creating content. Let's break this down. And I want to make sure I break this down as concisely as possible because I don't want to go over time. So basically, let's go straight to the root. Why should I even be meeting people? Why should I even be building a brand? Why? And the main core reason is because of this. And I mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again in like 2 sentences, which is at the end of every single thing that you ever have wanted lies a person, lies a connection to a person that can give you that thing. You want money, you want a person, like a relationship, you want an opportunity, you want love, you want family, you want whatever it is. It all lies within people. Everything lies within people. You want a mentor, you want like-minded people, all of it lies within meeting people. And the more people you meet, the likelier it is that you're going to achieve your goal because you have more connections in the game. You're able to know whether something exists. Like just imagine if you never had a search engine. A search engine is essentially, think of Google like this. Think of Google like the friend that has all the friends in the world. They literally know everybody in the whole world, and all you got to do is ask that friend any question, and they'll literally just go to whatever friend that they know for that answer, and they'll just give it to you. That's the power of knowing people. Now imagine that you were in that person's shoes. That's what Google is. But obviously, the analogy is not exactly perfect, but that's essentially what you can turn into. And there's a lot of things that Google can't search. Google can't search, for example, the best places. And I'm talking about like specific to a specific place here. The best places in Toronto to like go for X. The reason why you can't ask Google this is because even if someone makes an article about it, the moment they create an article about it, it no longer becomes this best place because everyone's going there. Or if you're trying to find these like secret places, these amazing places where you can like be alone or whatever, like it doesn't matter. Like my point is that you have much more specialized knowledge that comes from meeting people, and in so many other ways. Like I said, behind everything you ever want is people. That's what separates you. This is the most important one, though, in my opinion. This is the reason what like really made me excited. I've been through so many iterations in the past few years of my life that I realized that meeting people increases the chances of you changing your mind. And the reason why I think this is personally so important, and I don't think I've ever mentioned this before, is because iteration is one of the most important things to be doing in life. You want to constantly be proving yourself wrong. Because as you consistently prove yourself wrong, you get more experience and you end up creating a better model of how life works. Most people spend their entire lives doing this and suffer along the process. You want to be doing this as fast as possible. And how do you do that? You literally openly go and try to battle test every single one of your beliefs and have people battle test them for you, stress test them for you. And you can iterate that way. They'll teach you something you don't know. You'll learn something, a perspective that you've never seen before. So that's like what made me really, really important, which is you meet people so that they can change your mind. You want to go and get your mind changed. That's like one of the most important things. Anyways, so basically that was the motivation. Now my question was, how the people that actually can change my mind, the people that actually can give me the things that I want, they are most likely already in high positions of leverage. They already have a lot of attention. They already are very, very busy, and it's going to be very, very hard to contact them, let alone even if I contact them, get their help or get their advice or set up a meeting or get their time. So this is what led me to think about, how do I provide value to people that are higher than me, quote unquote higher than you. This, like I mentioned, people that have more attention, people that are really, very busy with like other more important things, etc. Sorry. Now I'm assuming that you can actually find these people, that you can actually message these people, you can actually get yourself in front of these people, because that's actually a whole other debate. Not debate, that's a whole other strategy of how to actually get yourself in front of someone. My main point is, the moment you're in front of someone, or the moment you message someone, they see your message, how do they know you're valuable? And I went through like a whole freaking thing where I just like tried to think about that. And the number one way in which you can show that you're valuable, is to give them something to consume about you. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that they have to see a piece of content that you have published anywhere, at least anywhere. Like, it doesn't have to be necessarily anything specific, but just a piece of content, whether that is a TikTok, whether that's a YouTube video, whether that's a Medium article, whether it's a LinkedIn article, whether it's a tweet, doesn't matter. Whether it's a product or software, it doesn't matter. Whether it's a website, like there's so many different things, like so many different ways of creating content here. But the point is, if they don't consume it, then you're nobody. They don't know who you are. They don't know how you can provide value to them. And think about it like this. Think of anyone who you admire that you have never met. The only reason why you admire them is because they put themselves out there. They put out the content. You were the one that consumed their content. And you just want to put yourself in their position where you're the one that's creating the content so other people can find you, the same way in which you like someone else. So that's this thinking that I had, this epiphany that I had, like, oh my God, like we gotta make content, like as much content or as much quality content as possible. So the content I was thinking about creating was just being able to have people understand the different parts about me and just get a good idea of who I am. Because I'm not gonna lie, when I meet people for the first time, it's only when people really, really get to know me where they're like, holy shit, this is so interesting, some of the things that you're doing. And I realized that just off of first glance, I don't provide that, I don't show that. So I wanted to do that with like a website. I wanted to do that with a bunch of different platforms that I would be publishing in. So that's pretty much what I started doing. I created a website, I revamped my website basically. And I tried to just make it as personal as possible so that when people look at it, they have a really, really good idea of who I am, as if I actually had talked to them for like multiple hours. So that's one thing. The second thing was, after you create this, then you go and reach out to people. You go and LinkedIn, send them an email. You go meet random people. You literally go and, go on like a bunch of like communities or groups and just like talk to people, and people will become interested in you because you have your website tagged, and they'll check out your website and be like, holy shit, this guy's so cool, and then they'll want to like talk to you if you're like-minded. That's good and all, right? Amazing. Recently, what happened was I came across this app called Clubhouse, and this is something that has been blowing up in the last few months. I got it about a month ago, and I had to go get like my iPhone 5. See, right now, I'm recording on an S10e right now, but I had to get this, this little slow thing just to be able to download this app because it's only available for iOS. Now, the problem is that I don't have anything on my Clubhouse bio. By the way, I'm not going to even explain what Clubhouse is. It's just too hard to explain, and I think I'll just waste so much time explaining it. Go search it up. Go try to understand what it is. Soak the information, and then come back. A one-sentence summary is that it pretty much, picture yourself like this. You're literally in a convention center, okay? There's 100 different rooms with all these influential people, like-minded people, even your own friends in those rooms. And they're all going live at the exact same time. Everyone's talking live, and you get to just choose whatever room you want to go into. And each of these rooms have panels, and these celebrities or people that you're talking to or your friends are all there. Either they're in the audience or on the panel. And if you automatically get a notification if one of your friends are talking, so you can literally go join that room. And it's just a virtual manifestation of this. The reason why I thought this was really, really important is because the power of being able to meet mutual friends on this app is unprecedented. I've literally never seen anything like it. I personally have went through an experience where one of my friends, I met a really good friend, through one of my friends. Then I met a really good friend of his through one of his friends. And then I met his friend just from Clubhouse. And like the amount of degrees of separation right there that I penetrated like in less than like 3 or 4 days is insane. And it happens all so casually. And this is the thing that I'm talking about. If you can provide value, if you have something that people can consume, and people really fuck with you, the power of you just getting to meet like-minded people or people that are even smarter than you that could teach you whatever is so high if you put yourself out on platforms like Clubhouse. The problem is that my website is not fully developed yet. I'm literally trying to break down exactly how I want my profile to look like, how I want my brand to look like. I'm still in the foundational stages of exactly pinpointing what I'm going to create on every single thing, generally, not exactly, so that the moment I'm able to plan it all out and know exactly where to go, I just execute. And the moment I execute, like I'll just be churning out article by video, by question on Quora or whatever, like by everything, like every single day, like it'll just keep happening. And that's where, like, you know what I mean? Like Pandora's box is going to open. I'm going to start hosting rooms on Clubhouse. I'm going to start like doing all types of shit. And I thought that was really, really interesting because if I could just do this consistently, starting now, with the systems that I already have in place of being able to make myself have good habits, it's going to just completely transform my life in like 1-2 years. In just 1-2 years. So that's like that's like what else has been going on. And then finally, let's talk about this. So I talked about 3 things I'm focused on. Number 3 was the projects. Number 2 was this brand building, was being able to create a website, meet new people, just like really, really going in on people. Number 1, and this actually got to the number 1 spot recently, is slowness. And what do I mean by this? And the moment I just said it, I just realized that like the rate at which I'm speaking is so fast. I was so unconscious about it. And slowness is essentially trying to slow down every single thing that I'm doing. And what do I mean by that? I basically mean that you try to take every action, whether it's typing on a keyboard, whether it's breathing, whether it's talking, whether it's presenting, whether it's eating, and you just slow it down by like 50%, 2 to 3 times. If you can do that, your life will change. And I have single-handedly noticed this on just doing it for 1 day. And I will just give you a short explanation as to why this is the case. Remember when I told you about time tracking and tracking mindfulness and slowness? This is where it comes. So, a few years ago, about 2 years ago or 1 year ago, when I did my meditation retreat, I think that's almost 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, I had this epiphany about slowness and about how important it is to be slow. And I understood like it's important to be slow, but then like the thing is that like I never really like executed. Whenever I would track my slowness and my mindfulness, because I am able to actually do it, I can like literally rate every single activity that I do on my time tracking out of like 10 for slowness or mindfulness. It will literally calculate all of it and then tell me how many hours I was slow for the whole week or for the whole period that I set. So I literally checked, and the maximum I would ever be able to do is like 7% slowness. The last 1.5 years, maximum 7% slowness. Then I had this event happen to me recently, which was like I lost a shitload of money trading. Shitload of money, manually trading, by the way. Shouldn't have been doing that. Like I probably mentioned in the last video, because I've been automating all this shit, right? Manually trading, lost a shitload of money, thousands of dollars. And just by like seeing myself do that, I just like took one good look at myself and I was like, why did I do that? And the answer was, I was just impulsive. I felt like this desire to just want to feel good by making a lot of money, to establish the fact that I was right about how I was trading, about the markets, about how I'm smart, all this stuff. And when I noticed that, I was like, this was so unnecessary. And it felt almost like this impulsive thing to be doing, because I do this all the time whenever I'm like near the computer or near like the trading app, that I feel like this quick need to like make money, not because of like greed, not because like I want to make money. That's actually not the reason. The reason is because like I just want to prove that I'm right. I just want to prove that like I want to feel like this rush of trading, like that dopamine. And when I broke it down to that, like the fact that it was dopamine, and the fact that I was just trying to get that dopamine from it, it completely like shattered me, in the sense that I was like, wow, every single thing that I've done before this time, like I never realized this, by the way, all the dopamine-induced activities that I did, I don't know, Netflix, I don't watch Netflix, but just give me an example. Eating a bunch of food, sleeping, jerking off, trading, what's it called? Oh, I had a good one. What was it? Movies, there was something else. Talking to people. All these random escapes that you have for trying to deal with random shit, they never actually negatively affected me, like a lot. Like the worst was like I would eat a bunch of sugar and I would feel like this crash. But it just wasn't like as bad as this association that I made with the fact that this dopamine addiction caused me to lose thousands of dollars. And like when I just like created that connection in my head, I was like, bro, this is the worst thing to ever be doing. You should never unconsciously be escaping like that, because the moment you do that, you can easily just like fall. This is the reason why I think that like people can abuse drugs so much, because it's the same exact need that people are trying to fulfill here. So when I got that lesson, like really made me really taught me the fact that like these types of events can really like affect you negatively. Even the smallest things that you do that are dopamine inducing. Trying to uphold your identity is a dopamine inducing event. So I just like, it just all hit me. And this is stuff that that actually requires a lot of context, but I'm just going to mention it raw, and then I can unpack it later on these videos that are coming. But pretty much what I realized was all these dopamine induced activities that I wanted to get, these unconscious activities, were from unconsciousness. What do I mean by that? Unconsciousness basically means that you are not aware of what you are doing at that moment. You're not feeling, and you're just lost in thought, or you're lost in an objective, lost in a goal, and your body or your mind naturally starts reacting to whatever resistances that you have. It's like almost like unconscious you're not conscious of your resistances. So therefore, because you're not conscious of the tension or resistance that you have, you end up naturally escaping to deal with it. And an example of like resistance or resistance or tension is like having a bad thought about something about yourself, or negative self-talk, or a negative association, or like a negative experience that you had. Maybe like you dropped your coffee, maybe someone screamed at you, maybe someone called you an asshole, or whatever it is. Like all types of things. You lost a shitload of money. That all induces escapes like the things I mentioned, dopamine-inducing activities. And I realized that this unconsciousness was at the root of all the reasons why I was doing those things and the reasons why I was losing money. So what I did was I said, how do I make myself more conscious? How do I make myself more aware? And the key that I realized, don't ask me how, but the key is be slow. I'll give you a micro example of this, and hopefully it will illustrate my point. I feel like I'm going so over time right now. I want to know how much time is being spent right now. We're at 36. Okay, that's not too bad. I'll give you a micro example of this. Because this is the best way in which we can relate it with all of us. Imagine you're tapping your foot. Like, I don't know if you can see my foot, but I'm tapping it like really, really heavily right now. Like, you're just like tapping it, and you're doing something. And the moment you become aware of the fact that you're tapping your foot, next time you do this, I want you to just stay aware of that and tell me if you want to keep tapping your foot. The answer most likely will be no. The reason why is because tapping your foot comes from unconsciousness. You literally are very unconscious of like what's even going on in your body, what's even going on at all. You're just completely lost in thought. And your body starts trying to deal with whatever resistance that you have. So that could either happen from tapping your foot, or from clenching your fist, or clenching your teeth, right? Or whatever, like it doesn't matter. Like even like, what the hell is this called? Oh shit, I forgot. But basically like clenching everything, or any type of tension or resistance. And all I want you to do is just do those things slowly and see if you can do them. Try to tap your foot slowly. Can you do that? Try to like fidget slowly. Can you do that? Like all these things cannot be done slowly. And the reason why is because what it essentially does is that slowness, just by being slow, it forces you to be more aware of your surroundings and more aware of everything that's happening. It basically allows you, it opens up the door to experiencing more. If you think about abstraction, when you move fast, you're essentially forced to abstract because you see less details. So you have to see things in a way which make more sense to you. So I'll give you two prime examples of this. Watch this. First thing I want you to do is play music at its normal pace. Your favorite music, play it at its normal pace. You'll feel this familiarity from the music. And then the moment, what I want you to do is now slow it down by 4 times. Bring it to 0.25x of the speed. Play it on YouTube. That will allow you to do that easier. Bring it to 0.25x of the speed. And I want you to just listen. Listen to literally what's being played at that time. And you'll notice that this familiarity that you had with that music is completely gone. It's completely gone. In fact, you have to force yourself for it to, like in your own mind, for you to connect the different sounds that are being played, for it to become familiar again. And the reason why is because the music that you're listening to at 1x speed is actually a completely different song than the music that's playing at 0.25x speed. And it's all relative to the experience that you're having over here. My point with this is that your brain is forced to abstract to create this familiar music than if it was playing at 0.25 speed. You're forced to listen to more things. You see what I'm trying to say? That's one micro example. Another micro example is, imagine you're in a car. You're in the passenger seat in the back. You're looking out the window. So imagine the car's moving like this. You're looking out the window. You're trying to just see a bunch of things, but it's all a blur to you if the car is moving very, very fast. And what you essentially can be forced to do is things start abstracting themselves into shapes. You stop seeing the details of whatever you're looking at. You just start seeing them as just like these labels. Like the house doesn't become detailed anymore. It just starts getting abstracted into just a bunch of shapes to you whenever you look out the window. I want you to actually try this next time. You'll notice this. And if it becomes just a blur, that will also be abstracted as well. However, if you force yourself to go slow, you'll start seeing more of the details, whether you like it or not. That's the important thing. Whether you like it or not, you'll be forced to see the details. And that's where slowness lies. When you slow yourself down, you slow your life down, you're forced to see the details of life. And when you do that, life just becomes so much more fantastic and fascinating. I meant to say fascinating, not fantastic. Life becomes much more fascinating and much more interesting because you're able to see the details of everything. Also the great thing about this is that not only do you get to see the detail, it just gives you more awareness. You're able to see yourself slowly and slowly get angry. You're able to slowly see yourself slowly get uncomfortable, start to fidget. So before you actually spiral out of control and for these micro resistances to become macro resistances, so for example, going from fidgeting and tapping your foot or clenching to like for it to evolve and snowball into something big, like for example, like watching something, walking around, eating, sleeping, doing all these things, this is literally where it comes from. And before it snowballs into that, you can stop it because you're aware. And that slowness has like taken me like whole. Like I've just been so wholly dedicated towards being slow over the last few weeks. Started 2 weeks ago. And I tried to think of like really, really important ways to like slow yourself down. And I thought of like really, really good methods. And one of the biggest ones, or two biggest ones, was the thing that you heard in the first place, which was this. I'll play it again. Hopefully. Basically, this primes your environment to slow down. You all of a sudden hear the rate at which you're supposed to be moving at, speaking. As you can see, even my speech is getting slower. And just the background, slow music, just to calm yourself down. That's one thing. The second, and this is the most powerful one, is having a target pace for every single activity that you can possibly think about. So, I play this metronome at a specific pace, 55 beats per minute. When I type, I used to type like, I don't know if you can hear that, but I used to type like that. Now, I literally type like 2 times in 1 beat. I go like this. And that slows down my typing so much. So, what I did was I created a list of all the things that I do. I'm gonna stop this now. Maybe I'll keep the music though. I like the music. I took out like a list of things that I do, and I ranked them from the most commonly done. So the number one thing I do is breathe. Set a pace for that, whatever pace that is, whether it's 20 beats per minute, 10 beats per minute, whatever it is. Just do it. And just keep doing this over and over and over again. Blinking, typing. Typing is actually the next thing that I do the most. Speaking, walking. These are all things that I do a lot. So if you're able to have a target in your head of how fast you should be going, and you have this mental metronome playing in your mind, you automatically slow down. Before, I used to not have this. There was no reference point, and therefore I only achieved 7% slowness. The next week after achieving 7% slowness, sorry, not the next week, the first week I tried being slow with this pacing system in mind, I hit 38% slowness. And this week I'm at 55% slowness. Wild shit. Like, it's literally wild. So it's just working wonders right now. I love it. Like, I haven't been really slow while I've been talking to you, by the way. I've not been slow at all. I just get, when I get excited, I just speak fast. I'm not very conscious of it. Actually, let me play it much slower though. Lower volume. There you go. So that is what I've been up to recently. I noticed that just by doing this, just by being slow, it makes you more happier about life because it keeps you less in your head and more in the present moment. So yeah. Plans for the future. There's a few more things I want to talk about, but it's okay if I don't talk about it. But plans for the future. I plan to progressively get to 100% slowness over the next few weeks. By the end of April, I should be at 100%, 90 to 100. And by that time, I think I would be like, things will just be like so much nicer. After that, I would have launched my RPS, my reward punishment system, by that time, and I'll also give updates as to how that's going by that next video. Because by April, that will also have done its thing. And I think it's actually it's going to be really, really interesting. I'm so excited for that. And finally, by that time, also I would have some developments in my fab, my trading bot as well. That's pretty much it on my end. These are the three things I'm focused on for the next few months. Slowness primarily going to be extending towards the rest of my life. The RPS is just one system that will be finished within that's already finished. I just have to create the front end for it. That's why I'm learning Django. And that's what I'm saying. I never got to talk about any of that stuff, but it's okay. We'll talk about that later. Yeah. Hopefully you understand why it's important to be slow, and I suggest you try being slow. Just for one day. Have this intention for one day and tell yourself, there's no objective, there's nothing that needs to be done at all. Clear your entire schedule and do whatever you want to do, but just do it slowly. So, if, for example, I want to go and get up, instead of getting up like this, you literally put your attention towards every single second of it. You literally go like this, like first before I get up, like really quickly, first slowly, put this down, pay attention to the feeling of your laptop as it goes down, pay attention to your hands as they touch your knees, and slowly get up. You know what I mean? So yeah, anyways, that's it. Catch you guys next few months.